The millionaire arrived at the resort and recognized the attendant immediately. It was his ex-girlfriend, pregnant, now waiting tables in silence. Her gaze was cold, but it hid pain and a big secret. When he suspects the pregnancy, he feels that baby could be his. If this story interests you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us from which city you are watching us. We continue. The morning sun gently filtered through the silk curtains of the luxurious Bella Vista resort, creating a play of light and shadow over the exquisitely set table where Lucas Montenegro, one of the country's most influential businessmen, was enjoying his breakfast. At 35, he had achieved everything he had ever dreamed of: a fortune estimated in the billions, international recognition, and now a marriage that promised to further consolidate his business empire with Vanessa Rothschild, heiress to one of the country's most traditional families. It was the first day of their honeymoon, and the exclusive resort had been chosen by Vanessa, who had insisted specifically on this location to celebrate their union. Lucas was absently observing the stunning view from the restaurant's balcony, while his wife discussed some details of the menu with the maitre d', when his entire world stopped. There, just a few feet away, wearing a simple resort uniform, was Helena Mendez. Time seemed to freeze when their eyes met. Helena, with her brown hair tied in a discreet bun, still had that same sparkle in her eyes that had bewitched him years ago. But now there was something different, something that made his heart race wildly. She was pregnant with a prominent belly that betrayed an advanced pregnancy. Lucas felt the air leave his lungs. His mind began to make involuntary calculations, remembering his last night with Helena 8 months ago, when he had decided to end everything to dedicate himself exclusively to the merger of his companies with the Rothschild conglomerate. The possibility that was beginning to form in his mind made him dizzy. "Honey, are you okay?" Vanessa's voice brought him back to reality. "You look like you saw a ghost." Before he could respond, his phone vibrated. It was a message from Sophia, his personal assistant for more than a decade. "We need to talk about Helena. Urgent." Lucas tried to keep his composure, but his world was silently beginning to crumble. Helena was no ordinary resort employee, and he knew it. Years ago, when they were still together, she had shared her dreams of creating a special place, a haven for people seeking peace and reconnection. Bella Vista was her creation, her life project. For the rest of the breakfast, Lucas discreetly watched as Helena moved around the restaurant. Her gestures were precise, professional, but they carried a dignity that contrasted with the simplicity of her current role. Occasionally, she would put her hand to her belly in a protective gesture, and each time she did, Lucas felt a pang in his chest. Vanessa, for her part, kept an enigmatic smile on her lips, her shrewd eyes recording her husband's every move. She seemed strangely pleased with something, as if she were watching a play that she herself had directed. When he finished his coffee, Lucas excused himself and headed to the private office he had requested for his stay. He needed to speak to Sophia immediately. On the way, he passed Helena, who was organizing a nearby table. The soft perfume she always wore invaded his nostrils, bringing with it an avalanche of memories. Starry nights, whispered promises, shared dreams that had been abandoned in the name of business success. In the empty hallway, their eyes met again. The silence between them was filled with unspoken words, with questions that demanded answers. Helena simply lowered her eyes and continued her work, but Lucas could see her hands trembling slightly as she arranged the cutlery on the table. Sophia's message burned in his pocket like a hot coal. Something told him that the revelations that were about to come would completely change the course of his perfectly planned life. The tropical paradise that was supposed to be the setting for his perfect honeymoon was beginning to transform into the stage for a drama he never imagined he would star in. Sophia was waiting for Lucas in her temporary office, her normally serene expression marked by obvious concern. As soon as he entered, she closed the door and began to reveal a story that would leave him even more disturbed. "Lucas, you need to know the truth about Bella Vista," Sophia began, nervously adjusting her glasses. "Helena is not just any employee. She was the founder of this resort, along with Thomas Lancaster, an investor who has direct connections to the Rothschild family. The revelation hit Lucas like a punch to the gut. He slumped back into one of the leather armchairs, trying to process the information. Sophia continued. 2 years ago, Thomas hatched a plan to remove Helena from society. He manipulated documents, created false testimonies, and managed to not only remove her from the management of the resort, but also destroy her reputation as a university professor. Lucas closed his eyes, remembering how Helena always spoke passionately about her students and her hotel management classes. She had built a solid and respectable career based on hard work and dedication. But there's more. Sophia hesitated for a moment before continuing. Thomas Lancaster is Vanessa's cousin, and from what I've gathered, his wife not only knew everything but was also an active participant in Helena's defamation lawsuit. The businessman felt his blood run cold. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fit together in a disturbing way. Vanessa's insistence on honeymooning specifically at Bella Vista, her controlling behavior, her enigmatic smiles at breakfast, it all made terrible sense now. The resort is on the verge of bankruptcy, Sophia continued, handing Lucas a folder of documents. The employees haven't been paid for 2 months and Thomas's management has been disastrous. Many here are pinning their hopes on you, Lucas. They know that you are one of the largest investors in the country and believe that your presence could be the salvation of Bella Vista. Lucas flipped through the documents mechanically, but his mind was on Helena. How had he not noticed before? How had he allowed his ambition to blind him to the signs? He remembered their last conversation, when Helena had tried to tell him about the serious problems she was facing, but he had been too busy merging their companies to really listen. There's one more thing. Sophia hesitated again, her voice shaking slightly. I found this in Vanessa's personal file. She handed Lucas a manila envelope. Inside were old photos of Helena and Vanessa together from their college days. They knew each other, Lucas. They were sworn rivals in college, and from what I gather, Vanessa never got over the fact that Helena excelled more academically and professionally. Lucas's cell phone vibrated with a message from Vanessa. Honey, I've reserved a special table for our lunch. Thomas Lancaster will be accompanying us. He has an interesting business proposal for you. Lucas felt a wave of nausea as he read Thomas's name. Now he understood that he was not just on a honeymoon. He was at the center of a web of intrigue and revenge, carefully woven by his own wife. And Helena, pregnant and vulnerable, was the prime target of this Machiavellian plan. Sophia placed her hand on Lucas's shoulder in a supportive gesture. You need to be very careful with your next steps. Vanessa is more dangerous than we imagined, and she has Thomas Lancaster on her side. But there's something they don't know. She paused dramatically before continuing. Helena kept a detailed diary of everything that happened, and that diary could be the key to turning this whole situation around. Lunch with Thomas Lancaster was approaching, but Lucas couldn't get the existence of the diary Sophia had mentioned out of his mind. As he walked through the resort's lush gardens, his mind worked incessantly, going over every detail of the recent revelations. That was when he spotted Helena again, this time alone, arranging flower arrangements at one of the outdoor tables. In an impulse that not even he could control, he approached. Helena noticed his presence, but continued her work, as if trying to ignore him. Her hands, however, trembled slightly as she arranged the white orchids. Helena, his voice came out hoarser than he intended. We need to talk. She finally looked up, and Lucas could see a mixture of hurt and dignity in her gaze. Now you want to talk? After 8 months? Or would it be after your marriage to Vanessa Rothschild? The way she said Vanessa's name carried a weight that Lucas couldn't quite decipher. Helena straightened her simple uniform and continued. We have nothing to discuss, Mr. Montenegro. You are an important guest at the resort, and I am just an employee fulfilling my duties. An employee who helped found this place, Lucas countered, watching her tense up. Sophia told me everything, Helena, about Thomas Lancaster, about how you were unfairly dismissed. Sophia always knew everything, Helena interrupted, with a bitter smile. She tried to warn me about many things, including you, but I was too blinded by love to listen. At that moment, Helena put her hand on her belly in a protective gesture that made Lucas's heart skip a beat. "And this child," he began, but was interrupted by a familiar voice. "Darling, I've been looking for you." Vanessa emerged into the garden, elegant in her designer dress, walking as if she were floating on the neatly trimmed grass. Her eyes took in the scene with a calculating glint. "Ah, I see you've met your old friend again." The condescending tone in Vanessa's voice made Helena straighten up. "Excuse me," she muttered, starting to walk away. "Helena," Vanessa called with false sweetness, "while you're here, could you please arrange for more orchids for my suite? The ones you personally cultivated in the hanging garden were magnificent." "Oh, that's right. You don't have access to that area anymore, do you?" Lucas watched in horror at the cruel pleasure in his wife's eyes as she psychologically tortured Helena. Before he could intervene, Thomas Lancaster appeared, impeccably dressed in his Italian suit. "Vanessa, Lucas, what a pleasure to meet." "You here?" Her voice was soft as velvet, but her eyes were cold as ice when they landed on Helena. "Helena, the guests in Bungalow 7 have complained about the housekeeping. Take care of it immediately." Helena nodded silently and left, but not before giving Lucas one last look, a look loaded with meanings that he urgently needed to decipher. During lunch, Thomas presented his proposal. He wanted Lucas to invest a significant amount of money in the resort, becoming a majority partner. As he talked about projections and numbers, Lucas observed the dynamic between Thomas and Vanessa. There was an unsettling complicity between them, as if they shared an amusing secret. "Bella Vista has untapped potential," Thomas argued. "With your investment and our management expertise, we could transform this place into the most exclusive resort in the country." "Our management experience?" Lucas asked, keeping his tone neutral. "From what I understand, the real visionary behind Bella Vista was Helena Mendez." Thomas's smile faltered for a second. "Helena had good ideas, yes, but she lacked business acumen. Besides, there were irregularities in her management that forced us to take drastic measures. Irregularities that have never been proven," a female voice interrupted. Sophia was standing next to the desk, holding a folder. "Mr. Lancaster, the external auditor urgently requests your presence." After Thomas hurriedly left, Vanessa made to stand up, but Lucas stopped her. "We need to talk about Helena." Vanessa's smile widened, almost predatory. "Yes, we do, especially about how she keeps interesting secrets in a certain diary. Did you know she still writes about you? About her dreams, her fears, about that last night?" Lucas's blood ran cold. How did Vanessa know about the diary? Hadn't Sophia said it was a secret? "I've always known everything, dear," Vanessa continued, sipping her wine calmly. "Including that particular night 8 months ago, and now seeing Helena pregnant. Well, it doesn't take a genius to do the math, does it?" That afternoon, while Vanessa was having a spa session, Lucas met with Sophia, again in his office. The assistant had learned more about Vanessa and Helena's shared past, and each new revelation was more disturbing than the last. "I found this in the university archives," Sophia said, holding out an old campus newspaper. On the front page, a photo showed Helena receiving an award for innovation in hotel management, while Vanessa was blurred in the background, her face contorted in an expression of pure envy. "Helena was always brilliant," Sophia continued. "She developed a revolutionary sustainable management model for hotels, which ended up being the basis for Bella Vista. Vanessa tried to copy the design, but was caught. The scandal was hushed up by the influence of the Rothschild family, but she never forgave Helena for having her plagiarism exposed." Lucas massaged his temples, feeling a headache coming on. "How did I never know about this?" "Because Vanessa is very skilled at hiding her past," Sophia replied. "She's built an impeccable public image, but behind the scenes, well, I found out she's been secretly seeing Thomas Lancaster for months, long before you met her." At this moment, a soft knock on the door interrupted their conversation. It was one of the resort's maids, looking nervous. "Mr. Montenegro? Miss Helena has become ill. She's in the infirmary." Lucas jumped to his feet, his heart racing. In the hospital ward, he found Helena lying on a stretcher, her skin pale and a pained expression on her face. The doctor at the resort explained that she had suffered a high blood pressure attack, possibly triggered by stress. She needs complete rest, the doctor warned. The pregnancy is at a delicate stage, and any emotional changes could be harmful. When they were alone, Helena finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "Lucas, there's something you need to know. The diary they mentioned, it's not just a diary, it's evidence." "Proof of what?" "Everything from Thomas and Vanessa's conspiracy, to the resort scam, to the real reason I was kicked out of college." She paused, taking a deep breath. "And there's something else, something about Vanessa that not even Thomas knows." Before he could continue, Helena turned even paler, putting her hands on her belly. The doctor quickly returned, expelling Lucas from the room. In the hallway, he found Sophia, who brought more news. "Lucas, I've just discovered something shocking," she said, holding up her tablet. "Vanessa is not who she says she is. The last name Rothschild, that's a fake. She's been forging her own identity for years. Her real name is Vanessa Lancaster. She's Thomas's sister, not cousin." The revelation hit Lucas like a thunderbolt. His entire marriage, his supposed business alliance with the Rothschild family, was based on an elaborate lie. But why? What was Vanessa's real goal? The answer began to reveal itself as Sophia continued her investigation. "There's more. I found records of suspicious bank transfers. Vanessa and Thomas have been siphoning money from the resort for months through shell companies. They're planning something big, Lucas, and your wedding is just part of the plan." At that moment, Lucas's cell phone vibrated with a message from Vanessa. "Honey, we need to talk. I found something very interesting in Helena's room. Come to our suite immediately." Lucas felt a shiver run down his spine. The diary. Vanessa had found Helena's diary, and now the game of power and revenge that his wife had meticulously planned was about to enter its final phase. "Sophia," he said, his voice firm for the first time that day, "call our legal department and call Ricardo." "Ricardo, your private investigator?" Sophia asked, surprised. "Yes. If Vanessa wants to play, let's play. But this time with my rules." Lucas entered the presidential suite with his heart racing, finding Vanessa sitting elegantly in a velvet armchair. On the coffee table, Helena's diary was open, its pages exposed like a wound. "What a fascinating read," Vanessa commented, raising her champagne flute. "Helena has always had a gift for words, especially when she writes about you, my dear, about that last night, about the dreams you shared, about how you abandoned her to build your empire." "Enough games, Vanessa," Lucas interrupted, his voice thick with restrained anger. "Or should I say, Miss Lancaster?" Vanessa's smile faltered for a second, but she quickly composed herself. "So, Sophia has been doing her homework. Impressive. But does that change anything? You're still my husband. We still have an ironclad marriage contract, and now," she held up the journal, "I have something that could completely destroy sweet Helena's reputation." "What do you really want?" Lucas asked, standing his ground. "What do I want?" Vanessa laughed, a cold, calculated sound. "I want what was always rightfully mine. The recognition, the success, everything Helena stole from me at university. And now, with you by my side, I can finally have it all." At this moment, Thomas Lancaster walked into the suite, his normally controlled face tense. "We have a problem. The external audit discovered the transfers." Vanessa stood up abruptly, knocking over her champagne glass. "What? We were careful." "Apparently not enough," Thomas replied, casting a suspicious glance at Lucas. "And there's more. Helena is being transferred to the main hospital. Pregnancy complications." Lucas felt his world spin. Without saying a word, he headed for the door, but Vanessa stopped him. "Where do you think you're going? We haven't finished our conversation." "On the contrary," Lucas replied, his voice icy. "We've just begun. Sophia?" As if waiting for the signal, Sophia entered the suite accompanied by two men in dark suits. "Mr. Lancaster, Ms. Montenegro, these are the federal auditors. They have..." Some questions about certain financial irregularities at the resort. Vanessa's face lost all color. You can't do this, I'm your wife. A wife who forged her own identity, embezzled money, and conspired to destroy an innocent person's life, Lucas countered. The marriage contract you mentioned, it has an interesting clause about fraud and misrepresentation. My lawyers would love to discuss it with you. Thomas tried to intervene. That's nonsense. You have no proof. No, Sophia smiled, showing her tablet. The bank transfers, the fake documents, the emails. Between you two, planning everything. Ricardo is very efficient in his investigative work. Oh, and there's one more thing. She took the diary from Vanessa's hands. This diary? It's a fake. Helena kept the real one in a much safer place. This was just bait, and you took it exactly as we expected. Vanessa slumped back into her chair, her mask of superiority finally crumbling. How did you find out about everything? You made a crucial mistake, Lucas explained, his voice calmer now. You underestimated the power of true love. While you plotted your revenge, Helena maintained her integrity. While you constructed lies, she documented the truth. And now it's time for you to face the consequences. One of the auditors approached Thomas. Mr. Lancaster, we'll need you to come with us to provide some clarifications. Vanessa stood up, trying to maintain a last shred of dignity. This isn't over, Lucas. You can't just... I can and I will, Lucas interrupted her. But right now I need to be somewhere else, with someone who really matters. Leaving the suite, Lucas met Ricardo in the hallway. The helicopter is ready, the investigator informed him. We can reach the central hospital in 20 minutes. As he walked quickly through the resort, Lucas could hear Vanessa's raised voice arguing with the auditors, but his mind was already elsewhere, focused only on Helena and the baby she was carrying. His baby, his future. The central hospital was a modern and imposing complex, but Lucas barely noticed its architecture as he ran through the corridors, guided by a nurse. His heart was beating wildly, torn between fear and hope. When he finally reached the obstetrics ward, he found Sophia already waiting for him. How is she? He asked breathlessly. Stable now, Sophia replied, leading him to a more private waiting area. The doctors managed to get her blood pressure under control, but they want to keep her under observation. The baby is fine, but they need to monitor her closely. Lucas slumped into one of the chairs, running his hands over his face. The last few hours had seemed like a whirlwind of emotions and revelations. Sophia sat down next to him, placing a hand on his shoulder in a gesture of support. There's something you need to see, she said, handing him an envelope. Inside was a series of medical tests. Helena had these tests done a few weeks ago. The baby, there's a rare genetic condition that showed up in the results. Lucas looked over the papers, his heart tightening. What condition? The E. Same one you carry in your genes, Sophia replied softly. The same one that made you go through so many treatments as a child. Helena found out during routine checkups, but she never had the chance to tell you. The tears Lucas had been holding back finally fell. The confirmation of his paternity, which he had already suspected, was now undeniable. But more than that, it was the realization of how much precious time he had lost, how many important moments of the pregnancy he had missed because of his obsession with success. A doctor approached them, her serene face conveying tranquility. Mr. Montenegro? Helena is asking for you. She's in room 507. When Lucas entered the room, he found Helena lying on the hospital bed, paler than usual, but with a special glow in her eyes. Monitors beside the bed recorded her vital signs and the baby's heartbeat, a rhythmic, loud sound that filled the room. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, Helena said softly as he approached. About the baby, about the genetic condition. No, Lucas interrupted her, sitting on the edge of the bed and taking her hand. I'm the one who needs to apologize for everything, for leaving you, for not realizing what Vanessa was planning, for being so blind. Helena squeezed his hand back. You're here now. That's what matters. And I won't leave anymore, he promised, his voice cracking. Helena, When you left my life, you took with you much more than I ever imagined. You took my ability to be truly happy, to feel things deeply. I turned into a money-making machine, living a life that seemed perfect on the outside, but was completely empty on the inside. A soft smile lit Helena's face. I always knew the real Lucas was still out there somewhere. At that moment, the baby moved, causing Helena to place her hand on her belly. Lucas hesitantly placed his hand over hers, feeling his daughter's movements for the first time. She always gets more agitated when she hears your voice, Helena commented, tears in her eyes. I think she already recognizes her father. Father, Lucas repeated the word, feeling its weight and meaning. I never imagined that word could mean so much. A nurse came into the room to check Helena's vital signs and took the opportunity to perform another ultrasound. On the screen, the image of the baby appeared clear and sharp, her gentle movements filling the room with a special energy. You want to know something funny? Helena asked as they watched the screen together. Remember that name we picked out together years ago, when we dreamed of having a family? Lucas smiled, remembering the nights they spent planning for the future. Aurora, he whispered, because of our first sunrise together on the beach. That's her name, Helena confirmed, Aurora Montenegro Mendez. Because even in the darkest moments, I never stopped believing that a new dawn would come. The following days were filled with profound changes. While Helena remained hospitalized for monitoring, Lucas completely restructured his life. His temporary office at the hospital had become an operations center, from where he managed not only his business, but also the recovery of Bella Vista. Sophia entered the makeshift room, carrying a stack of documents. The auditors have finished their full review of the resort, she said, placing the papers on the table. The situation is worse than we imagined. Thomas and Vanessa have embezzled almost 70% of the working capital in the last few months. Lucas looked over the reports, his face tense. What about the employees? They haven't been paid for 3 months. Many continue to work out of loyalty to Helena. They know that she was the true creator of the resort, and they remain hopeful that everything will be resolved. At that moment, Ricardo, the private investigator, entered the room. I have news about Vanessa and Thomas, he announced, sitting down. They tried to leave the country last night, but were prevented from doing so by the federal police. Their bank accounts have been frozen, and their lawyers are preparing a lawsuit for compensation. Lucas nodded, but his mind was already elsewhere. Through the office window, he could see Helena's room in the building next door. She was awake, reading a book, her hand occasionally stroking her belly in a gesture that had become familiar. There's one more thing, Sophia continued hesitantly. We found the original founding documents for Bella Vista. Helena wasn't just a co-founder, she was the sole legitimate owner. Thomas forged the partnership documents later. This revelation made Lucas stand up abruptly. How did he manage to do that? With help from within the university, Ricardo explained. Vanessa had a contact in the records department who altered Helena's academic documents, creating a false accusation of plagiarism. This undermined her credibility when Thomas presented the forged documents from the resort. And now we have proof of all this? Sophia smiled. All the evidence you need. The university contact confessed everything in exchange for a plea deal. Lucas looked out the window again. Helena was now standing, talking to her doctor. Even from a distance, he could see how she radiated an inner strength that had always captivated him. Prepare the transfer documents, he ordered, surprising Sophia and Ricardo. I'm returning the Bella Vista to its rightful owner. But Lucas, Sophia interjected, you invested a fortune to buy Thomas out. Technically, the resort is yours now. And technically, I should be happy with Vanessa. Building an empty empire, he replied with a serene smile. Some things are more important than money, Sophia. I learned that the hard way. That afternoon, Lucas visited every area of the resort, talking to the employees, listening to their stories and concerns. He discovered that many of them had known Helena since the beginning, when she was just a young dreamer with an innovative hotel project. Maria, the oldest housekeeper, shared moving memories. Miss Helena thought of everything, you know. She created a training system for local residents, implemented sustainable practices before it was even fashionable. This place was not just a luxury hotel, it was a project for social transformation. As he walked through the gardens that Helena had personally designed, Lucas began to see Bella Vista in a different light. Every detail carried her essence: the harmonious arrangement of native plants, the living spaces that combined elegance and warmth, the intelligent use of natural light. Back at the hospital, he found Helena sleeping peacefully. On her bedside table was a notebook, not the famous diary, but a new notebook where she had started to write down plans for the future. Curious, Lucas flipped through the pages carefully. He found outlines for an employee scholarship program, sustainable expansion projects, ideas for partnerships with universities. Even though she had been unfairly dismissed, she had never stopped dreaming and planning. This was supposed to be her surprise. Helena's soft voice surprised him. She had woken up and was watching him with a mixture of shyness and expectation. "You never stopped believing, did you?" Lucas asked, sitting down next to her. "At Bella Vista?" "No." "At you?" "No, either," she replied, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Even when it seemed impossible, something inside me knew that one day the truth would come out." The next morning, Helena's hospital room was transformed into a makeshift conference room. Sophia had organized all the necessary documents for the return of the Bella Vista, and a notary waited patiently as Lucas explained his decision. "It's not just about giving back what's rightfully yours," he said, sitting on the edge of Helena's bed. "It's about righting a wrong, about doing the right thing. Bella Vista was born from your dream, from your vision. It needs to be back in your hands." Helena looked at the documents with teary eyes. "But you invested so much money." "Money is something I can get back," Lucas interrupted softly. "Lost time, wasted moments, those are irreparable, and I've wasted too much time chasing the wrong things." Sophia cleared her throat discreetly, catching their attention. "There's one more thing," she said, pulling another folder out of her bag. "The resort staff has organized a petition. They want Helena to return not only as owner, but as CEO as well." "And there's another piece of news," Ricardo added, entering the room with his tablet. "The university has issued an official statement retracting the accusations against Helena. Your position as a professor is guaranteed if you want to return." Helena covered her face with her hands overcome with emotion. Lucas hugged her, feeling how she was trembling slightly. When she finally regained her composure, her face was radiant. "Actually," she began, taking out her notebook, "I have some plans that could bring these two things together. I've always dreamed of turning Bella Vista into a training center for sustainable hospitality. We could create partnerships with the university, offer internships, develop research." Lucas smiled, recognizing that sparkle in her eyes, the same one that had enchanted him years ago when they met at a lecture on social entrepreneurship. "And I have a proposal to contribute to this dream," he said, surprising everyone. "I want to create a foundation, not just to support Bella Vista, but to finance similar projects throughout the country, projects that combine hospitality with social responsibility." Helena looked at him in surprise. "Are you serious?" "I've never been so serious in my life," he replied, taking her hand. "And I want you to be the president of this foundation. There's no one better than you to identify and support projects that really make a difference." Sophia smiled, watching the scene. She had watched Lucas's transformation over the past few days, from a businessman focused only on numbers to a man who finally understood the true meaning of success. "And there's one more surprise," Lucas continued, signaling to Ricardo, who quickly left the room. When he returned, he was carrying a wheelchair. The doctor authorized a short walk. "Do you want to see the hospital garden?" In the garden, under an extraordinarily blue sky, Lucas led Helena to a specially prepared spot. A small table had been set with an elegant breakfast, and around it were pots of orchids, the same species she grew in the hanging garden at Bella Vista. "How did you manage?" Helena asked, excited. "Maria, the housekeeper, kept some seedlings in storage," he explained. "She said she knew you would. Come back someday." While enjoying their breakfast, Lucas and Helena began to plan their future. Not just theirs, but the future of Bella Vista. The foundation and, most importantly, the future they would build together for little Aurora, who moved excitedly in her mother's belly, as if she were taking part in the conversation. "You know, what's funny?" Helena said, watching a butterfly land on one of the orchids. "All this time I kept a journal not only to document what happened, but to keep hope alive. Each page was a promise to myself that the truth always prevails." Lucas kissed her hand softly. "And you were right, you always were." 2 weeks had passed since Helena's hospitalization, and Bella Vista was beginning to show the first signs of recovery. Lucas had set up a temporary base at the resort, from where he coordinated both the restructuring of the site and his own businesses, always in constant communication with Helena via video calls. On that sunny morning, an important meeting was taking place in the resort's main hall. All the staff were present, their faces expressing a mixture of anxiety and hope. Sophia, alongside Lucas, was organizing a presentation that would change the future of Bella Vista. "As you know," Lucas began, his voice firm but gentle, "we have been through some difficult times, but today marks the beginning of a new era for Bella Vista. First, I want to announce that all back wages will be paid in full by the end of this week." A murmur of relief ran through the hall. Maria, the housekeeper, could not hold back her tears. "But this is just the beginning," Lucas continued, motioning to Sophia, who projected a live video conference with Helena from the hospital onto the screen. "The real change starts now." Helena, even through the screen, radiated an infectious energy. "Dear friends, Bella Vista family," she began, her voice emotional. "You are the true soul of this place. You have remained faithful even in the most difficult times, and that is why the first great change will begin with you." Sophia handed out folders to each employee. Inside was a new employment contract and something else, certificates of participation in the resort. "Each of you," Lucas explained, "will become a partner in Bella Vista. Not just an employee, but an owner. You will share in the profits and decisions. This resort was born from a dream of community and sustainability, and that is how it will continue." The employees looked at the documents in astonishment. Paolo, the oldest gardener, raised his hand tremblingly. "But how? Why?" "Because it's the right thing to do," Helena replied through the screen. "Bella Vista has never been just a luxury hotel. It's a project of social transformation, of human valorization. And now, finally, we can fully realize that dream." Lucas then revealed the second part of the plan, the creation of a hotel school within the resort, in partnership with the university. Employees would have the opportunity to further professionalize themselves, and the resort would become a center of excellence in sustainable hospitality. "And there's more," Sophia added, projecting new images. Helena's former hanging garden will be completely restored. But not only that, it will be expanded to include a community garden and an urban agriculture research center. Maria stood up, excited. "The orchids, as will they come back?" Helena smiled through the screen. "They're coming back, Maria. Lucas rescued all the seedlings you saved, and our botanists are taking care of them. Soon the garden will be more beautiful than ever." The meeting continued with more positive announcements. A new benefits program for employees, including a family-friendly health plan, scholarships for children, and an emergency fund for specific needs. While the employees celebrated the news, Lucas received a message on his cell phone. It was from Ricardo. "Preparations finalized for tomorrow, everything is planned." Lucas smiled, looking at Helena's image on the screen. She was smiling too, as if she knew exactly what was coming. Tomorrow would be a special day, the day Helena would finally be released from the hospital and return to Bella Vista. But it wouldn't be a simple return home. Sophia approached Lucas, speaking softly. The journalists confirmed their presence for tomorrow. The story of the true founder of Bella Vista, returning to her rightful place in it, will be a beautiful report. "It's not just a news story," Lucas replied, his eyes fixed on Helena's image. "It's a declaration of love. to Helena, to Bella Vista, to everything that really matters in life. On the screen, Helena was stroking her belly, where Aurora was moving excitedly. It was as if even the little girl understood that a new phase was beginning, not only for her parents, but for the entire Bella Vista family. The morning of Helena's grand return to Bella Vista dawned with an exceptionally blue sky. Lucas had been up all night, personally supervising every detail of the preparations. The resort was unrecognizable, not because of the grandeur of the decor, but because of the meaningful simplicity of each element. The path from the main entrance to the central garden was lined with orchids, the same species that Helena had cultivated with such care. Maria, the housekeeper, had personally taken charge of their arrangement, remembering exactly how her former boss liked to arrange them. "Everything is perfect," Sophia commented, approaching Lucas, who was observing the final adjustments. "The journalists have already started arriving. Are you sure you want to do it this way, so public?" Lucas smiled, adjusting his tie. "Helena deserves for everyone to know the truth, to see who she really is and what Bella Vista means." At this moment, Ricardo hurriedly appeared. "They're coming. The ambulance just passed through the main gate." Lucas's heart raced. It was no ordinary ambulance. It was just a formality from the hospital to ensure Helena's safe transportation, as her pregnancy required special care. Still, the sight of the vehicle slowly pulling into the resort's main driveway made his stomach churn. When the ambulance pulled up, it was Helena who appeared first, refusing the wheelchair offered by the paramedics. "I want to walk in," she insisted, her eyes shining as she recognized the orchids that lined the path. Lucas rushed to help her, and together they began to walk along the flower-lined path. The resort staff formed a sort of human corridor, each holding a small sign with words of welcome. Maria could not hold back her tears, and even the journalists present seemed moved by the scene. "Did you plan all this?" Helena asked softly, squeezing Lucas's hand. "Actually," he replied, "it was a collective idea. Everyone wanted to be part of your return." When they arrived at the central garden, a surprise awaited them. The place had been transformed into a small, open-air auditorium, with chairs arranged in a semicircle. In the center, a simple but elegant podium awaited Helena. Sophia took the lead, taking the microphone. "Today is not just the return of Helena Mendez to Bella Vista. It is the return of truth, justice, and love. And to mark this moment, we have some important announcements." Lucas led Helena to the center of the garden, where she could see, for the first time, the newly installed commemorative plaque. Bella Vista, founded by Helena Mendez, a dream of sustainability and humanity. "But there's more," Lucas announced, taking the microphone. "Today we're not just celebrating a return, we're celebrating a new beginning." "Helena?" She looked at him in surprise, not fully understanding. Lucas continued. 8 months. Gargo, I made the biggest mistake of my life by letting you go. Today, in front of everyone, I want to correct that mistake." To Helena's surprise and the excitement of those present, Lucas knelt down, taking a small box from his pocket. "Helena Mendez, would you do me the honor of starting our story over again? Of building together not only the future of Bella Vista, but our own future?" Tears ran freely down Helena's face. Aurora, as if understanding the moment, gave a strong kick that made her mother smile through her tears. "Yes," she answered simply, her voice choked with emotion. Applause and shouts of joy erupted in the garden. Maria hugged Sophia, both of them crying openly. Journalists snapped their cameras, capturing the moment when Lucas placed the ring on Helena's finger, a ring with a small orchid in white gold, symbolizing the rebirth of their love. "Now yes," Lucas said, hugging Helena, "Bella Vista is complete. Its true soul is back." The news of Lucas and Helena's engagement quickly spread through the media, but not in the way everyone expected. Instead of focusing on the sensational aspect of the breakup with Vanessa, the newspapers highlighted Bella Vista's story of overcoming and renewal, and how the resort was transforming itself into a model of humane and sustainable management. A week after the proposal, Helena was in her old office in the now completely renovated boardroom, reviewing projects with Sophia. The walls, once austere, now displayed photos of employees and their families, as well as records of the resort's history. "The numbers are impressive," Sophia said, showing a spreadsheet on her tablet. "Since announcing the employee engagement program, productivity has increased by 40%. And, most interestingly, guest reviews have never been so positive." Helena smiled, stroking her prominent belly. "It's what I've always said. When people feel truly part of something, they give their best." At this moment, Maria hurried into the room, her eyes shining with excitement. "Ladies, you have to see this, the hanging garden and the orchids." The three women headed to the panoramic elevator that led to the hanging garden. When the doors opened, Helena put her hands to her mouth, overcome with emotion. The space, which had been practically abandoned a few weeks ago, was now pulsing with life. The orchids that Maria had safeguarded had not only survived, but were blooming in an extraordinary way. "How is this possible?" Helena asked, approaching. A particularly rare specimen she herself had cultivated years ago. "It was Paolo," Maria explained proudly. "He found out I'd saved the seedlings and had been secretly tending them in his own greenhouse. He said he knew one day you'd come back." The moment was interrupted by Lucas, who arrived accompanied by an elegant lady that Helena immediately recognized, Dr. Isabel Mendonça, one of the greatest experts in sustainable hospitality in the country. "Helena," Lucas began, his eyes shining with excitement, "Dr. Isabel has an interesting proposal for us." The expert approached, surveying the garden with admiration. "Miss Mendez, I've been following your work for years. What you've created here at Bella Vista is extraordinary. And now with the changes you're implementing, you have the potential to become an international case study." Helena sat down on one of the garden benches, feeling Aurora moving excitedly. "What do you mean?" "We want to transform Bella Vista into a center of excellence in sustainable hospitality," Lucas explained, sitting down next to her. Dr. Isabel proposed a partnership with her research institution. The resort would become a living laboratory of innovative practices. "And there's more," Dr. Isabel added, her eyes shining. "We'd like you, Helena, to lead the project. Your experience combined with your humane approach to management is exactly what we need." Before Helena could respond, Sophia interrupted discreetly. "Excuse me, but we have another urgent matter. The press office just informed us Vanessa is giving a press conference." Lucas and Helena exchanged worried glances. However, to everyone's surprise, the press conference brought no accusations or scandals. Instead, Vanessa, visibly dejected but dignified, was doing something unexpected, a public apology. "I have made serious mistakes." Her voice trembled on the tablet screen Sophia held. "I have allowed envy and resentment to guide my actions. Bella Vista, Helena Mendez, and all the resort staff deserve not only my apologies, but also reparations." The camera then showed that Vanessa was not alone. Beside her, a representative of the public prosecutor's office announced that, as part of a judicial agreement, all the embezzled assets would be returned to the resort, and a fund would be created for social projects in the region. Helena squeezed Lucas's hand, excited. "Did you know that?" He shook his head, equally surprised. "No, but maybe this is a sign that people can really change when faced with the truth." "And with love," Helena added, looking around the reborn garden. "Love has this transformative power." Dr. Isabel watched the scene with interest. "You know, Helena, I think we've just found the topic for our first case study. How love and humanized management can transform not only businesses, but lives." Late afternoon found Helena and Lucas on the terrace of Bella Vista, watching the sunset while they planned their next steps. The project with Dr. Isabel had awakened a new sparkle in Helena's eyes, and she was already beginning to sketch out ideas in her inseparable notebook. "You know what this reminds me of?" Lucas said, watching her write. "That first time we met. At the lecture on social entrepreneurship. You were in the front row taking notes just like you are now." Helena smiled, remembering that day. "And you, the famous speaker, Stopped your presentation in the middle just to ask what I was writing so much about. How could I not ask? His face was so focused, so full of passion for what he was hearing. It was impossible not to notice. Gentle breeze swayed the orchids in the hanging garden, bringing their scent to them. Helena closed her eyes, breathing deeply. It's amazing how life turns around. Back then, Bella Vista was just a dream in my scribbles. And now, Lucas added, it's more than a dream come true. It's a legacy that will continue to grow and transform lives. Sophia appeared on the terrace, carrying a folder of documents. Sorry to interrupt, but I thought you might like to see this. These are the first results of the scholarship program for employees' children. Helena leafed through the documents with emotion. 20 children had benefited in the first month of the program. Among them was Maria's daughter, who dreamed of studying botany to continue working with orchids. That gave me an idea, Helena said, her eyes shining. What if we expanded the program, not just to the employees' children, but to young people in the community? Lucas smiled, recognizing that tone in her voice. It was the same one she used when she was about to propose something revolutionary. What do you have in mind? A complete training center, she explained excitedly. In addition to the hotel school, we could create technical courses in related areas, gastronomy, gardening, environmental management. Turn Bella Vista into a true educational center. Sophia made some quick notes on her tablet. This would align perfectly with Dr. Isabel's project. We could integrate research and teaching. At this moment, Aurora gave a particularly strong kick, making Helena laugh. I think someone is approving of the idea too. Our daughter already knows how to recognize good projects, Lucas joked, placing his hand on Helena's belly. She will grow up seeing Bella Vista transform into something even more special. The sun was beginning to set on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of pink and orange. In the garden below, Paolo carefully watered the orchids, while Maria led a group of guests on a tour, explaining the history of each species. Look, Sophia pointed to a group of employees gathered in the garden gazebo. It was the resort's choir, an initiative that had arisen spontaneously after the changes. They were rehearsing for a special performance they would give at Lucas and Helena's wedding. Sometimes I wonder, Helena reflected, observing the scene, if everything that happened wasn't in some way necessary to bring us here, to make us see what really matters. Lucas hugged her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. Do you know what I learned from all of this? That success is not measured by numbers in a bank account or headlines in newspapers. It is measured by the smiles you put on people's faces, by the lives you help transform. And for love, Helena added, turning to look him in the eyes. Mostly for love. The choir began to sing softly, its melody floating through the air of the approaching night. It was a song about new beginnings, about hope, about love. And as the first stars began to appear in the sky, Lucas and Helena remained embraced, knowing that this was not an end, but rather the beginning of something much greater. Bella Vista was in a state of frenzy on that special morning. It was just a few hours before Lucas and Helena's wedding, and every corner of the resort was filled with the festive atmosphere of the moment. The gardens, more lush than ever, had been decorated with orchids of every color, creating a setting that seemed straight out of a fairy tale. Helena watched the preparations from the window of her suite, where Maria and Sophia were helping her with the final details. Her 8.5-month belly did not prevent her from radiating a serene and natural beauty. The dress, specially designed to accommodate her advanced pregnancy, was a masterpiece of simplicity and elegance. It's perfect, Maria whispered, adjusting her veil carefully. You look more beautiful than ever, my girl. Sophia, ever practical, checked her to-do list on her tablet. The guests are already arriving. Dr. Isabel just arrived with the entire research team, and there's a special surprise waiting in the garden. Curious, Helena approached the window and her heart almost stopped. Dozens of children, all dressed in the colors of the new Bella Vista Educational Center, formed a corridor on the way to the improvised altar in the garden. They were the first beneficiaries of the scholarship program, along with their parents. It was their idea, Sophia explained emotionally. They wanted to be a part of your day in some special way. At that moment, a different commotion caught their attention. Lucas had arrived earlier than expected and, against all tradition, asked to see Helena before the ceremony. But it's bad. Luck, Maria protested, trying to stop him from entering. After everything we've been through, Lucas's voice sounded from the other side of the door, I think we've already proven that our love is stronger than any superstition. Helena laughed, recognizing her fiancé's stubbornness. Let him in, Maria, he's right. When Lucas entered the room, his eyes filled with tears when he saw Helena. It was not only her physical beauty that moved him, but all the strength and dignity she radiated. In her hands she carried a small velvet case. I couldn't wait to give you this, he said, opening the case. Inside was a delicate necklace with an orchid-shaped pendant studded with tiny diamonds. It was my grandmother's. She always said it should be worn by a woman who understood that the true value of life lies in the little flowers we plant, in the paths of others. While Lucas put the necklace on Helena, Sophia discreetly led Maria out of the room, letting the couple have their moment of privacy. You know what's amazing, Helena said, looking at herself in the mirror with the new necklace. A few months ago I was waiting tables at this very resort, feeling like I had lost everything, and now you've proven that you've never lost anything, Lucas added. You've just planted seeds that were waiting for the right moment to bloom. Babe, gentle movement in Helena's belly made them both smile. Aurora, as always, chose the most meaningful moments to speak up. She's also looking forward to the ceremony, Helena joked, stroking her belly. Actually, Lucas hesitated for a moment. There's something I need to tell you first. I made a small change to the ceremony schedule. Helena raised an eyebrow, curious. What change? Remember the staff choir? They won't just sing during the reception anymore. They've prepared something special for your entrance, a song that tells our story, that talks about new beginnings and second chances. The tears Helena had been holding back began to fall freely. Lucas Montenegro, you're determined to make me cry before the ceremony even starts. A soft knock on the door interrupted the moment. It was Sophia, returning with an expression that mixed urgency and excitement. It's time. Everyone is ready. Lucas gently kissed Helena's forehead and headed for the door. Before leaving, he turned one last time. I'll see you at the altar, my love, this time forever. When he had left, Helena turned back to the mirror, adjusting her dress one last time. The reflection she saw was not just that of a bride, it was that of a woman who had found her true strength, who had transformed pain into hope, and who was now about to begin the most beautiful chapter of her story. The Bella Vista garden had never looked so magnificent. The orchids seemed to dance in the gentle afternoon breeze as the sun began its descent towards the horizon, creating a spectacle of light and shadow among the flowers. The guests took their places, creating a sea of smiling faces and excited eyes. Lucas waited at the makeshift altar, with Sophia as his witness. At his side, Dr. Isabel represented not only a professional partner, but someone who had believed in the transformative vision of the new Bella Vista. When the first notes of the music began, it was not the traditional wedding march that echoed through the gardens. Instead, the staff choir began a soft melody, with lyrics specially composed for the moment. Between orchids and dreams, a true love was born, that even separated by time, found your way back in one piece. Helena appeared at the beginning of the corridor formed by the children of the scholarship program. Each little student held an orchid, and as she passed, they handed over the flowers, gradually forming the bride's bouquet. It was a delicate and meaningful choreography, symbolizing how love and education could flourish together. Maria, who walked right behind Helena as her godmother, could not hold back her tears. She, more than anyone, had witnessed the entire journey, the pain, the overcoming, and now finally the triumph of love. When Helena reached the altar, Lucas took her hands, his eyes conveying all the love that words could not express. The celebrant, a beloved university professor who had supported Helena through her most difficult moments, began the ceremony with words that touched everyone. We are here today not only to celebrate the union of two people, but to witness how true love has the power to transform lives, to rebuild dreams and to create new paths. Lucas's wishes came from the heart. Helena, you taught me that success is not measured by numbers on a spreadsheet, but by the positive impact we make on the lives of others. I promise to spend the rest of my days honoring that lesson, being the man you always knew I could be. Helena, moved, replied, Lucas, when everything seemed lost, you not only gave me back my dreams, you made them grow even bigger. I promise to share with you every new dawn, every challenge and every achievement, always with the same love that brought us here. Aurora, as if she wanted to be part of the moment, gave a strong kick that made Helena smile through her tears. Lucas, noticing the movement, placed his hand on her belly, including his unborn daughter in that sacred moment. The choir continued its soft melody, now joined by some of the guests who had already learned the chorus. The song spoke of new beginnings, of how true love had the power to heal wounds and build bridges. When it was time for the rings, Paolo, the gardener, came forward with a small velvet cushion. The rings rested on orchid petals, the same ones he had helped preserve during the difficult times. With this ring, Lucas said, sliding the wedding band onto Helena's finger, I promise not only to be your husband, but your partner in all the dreams and projects we will still achieve together. Helena, with tears in her eyes, added, with this ring I promise to be not only your wife, but your companion in every step of this journey that we are beginning. The kiss that sealed the union was accompanied by emotional applause and flower, petals that the children threw into the wind. The choir reached its final crescendo, and on the last note a small group of butterflies was released, flying among the orchids like a blessing from nature itself. Lucas and Helena turned to face their guests, now husband and wife, their faces illuminated by the golden light of the sunset. Bella Vista, silent witness to their union, seemed to glow with renewed energy, as if the resort itself was celebrating the love that had been reborn in its gardens. The wedding reception was in full swing in the Bella Vista Gardens when Helena felt her first contraction. She was talking to Dr. Isabel about the educational center's new projects when a wave of discomfort made her pause mid-sentence. Helena! Sophia, always alert, immediately noticed the change in his expression. Is everything okay? I think Aurora has decided she wants to join the party, Helena replied, trying to keep her humor despite her growing discomfort. Within minutes, the celebratory atmosphere turned into an organized mobilization. Lucas, who had been talking to some investors about the resort's expansion project, ran to his wife's side as soon as he received Sophia's signal. It's still too early, Helena murmured worriedly. She was 2 weeks away from her due date. The resort's doctor, who was fortunately among the guests, quickly assessed the situation. We need to take her to the main hospital. Her blood pressure is a little high, and with her history of complications, it's best not to take any chances. Maria approached with a small suitcase that was already packed for this eventuality. I put everything you might need, including that new diary you started writing for Aurora. The resort's helicopter was called. In and amid nervous smiles and well wishes from the guests, Lucas and Helena left for the hospital. Sophia coordinated for the party to go ahead, turning it into a double celebration of the wedding and the imminent arrival of the baby. At the hospital, the medical team was already prepared. Dr. Fernando, a specialist in high-risk pregnancies, had been alerted and was waiting for the couple to arrive. The genetic condition we identified in the tests could complicate the birth, he explained as he examined Helena. But we are prepared for any eventuality. Lucas held Helena's hand, trying to convey a calm that he himself didn't feel. Remember our first conversation about Aurora, when you told me you had chosen that name? Helena smiled between contractions. How could I forget? It was in the hanging garden, among the orchids. You said Aurora meant a new dawn, Lucas continued, stroking her hair, and that's exactly what she's bringing to us now. The next few hours were intense. Helena's blood pressure fluctuated, causing concern among the medical team. At one particularly difficult moment, she squeezed Lucas's hand tightly. "Promise me you'll tell her everything. Our story, how we met again, how love overcame all barriers." "I'll tell you every detail," Lucas promised, kissing her forehead. "And you'll be by my side to fill in the parts I forget." At the resort, Sophia kept everyone updated on the progress. The staff choir had gathered in the garden and sang softly, sending positive energy to the hospital. Maria organized a prayer circle in the hanging garden, among the orchids that meant so much to Helena. Dr. Isabel, who had stayed at the resort, took the opportunity to share with guests how Helena and Lucas's story had inspired a new approach in her study of humanized management. "Bella Vista is not just a business success story," she explained to those present. "It is a living example of how love can transform a work environment into a real family." Back at the hospital after hours of labor, the crucial moment arrived. The delivery room was silent, except for the medical equipment and the encouraging words from the staff. "It's almost there," Dr. Fernando announced. "Helena, you're being very strong." Lucas, still holding his wife's hand tightly, whispered, "Aurora is coming, my love. Our little one is coming to complete our story." And then, like a ray of sunlight breaking through the clouds, Aurora's first cry echoed through the room. A strong, vibrant cry full of life. Dr. Fernando smiled, lifting the little girl so her parents could see her. "She's perfect," Helena whispered, tears of joy streaming down her face. "Our little Aurora." Sunrise found Lucas in the neonatal, intensive care unit, watching his daughter through the glass. Aurora was tiny, but her vital signs were strong and stable. The inherited genetic condition required special care, but doctors were optimistic about her recovery. Sophia arrived early, bringing not only news from the resort, but also a small bouquet of orchids from the hanging garden. "How are they?" "Helena is resting," Lucas replied, without taking his eyes off Aurora. "And our little warrior is getting stronger. The doctors say she'll be able to go to her mother's room soon." "I have something to show you," Sophia said, picking up her tablet. "The staff at Bella Vista have prepared a surprise for you." In the video, all the employees were gathered in the hanging garden, each holding an orchid. Maria, moved, spoke on behalf of the group. "Aurora, your arrival is like a new dawn for all of us, just like these orchids, which were reborn stronger. After the storm, you are the symbol that love always finds a way to bloom." Lucas wiped away a discreet tear. "They're much more than employees, aren't they? They're family." "And there's more," Sophia continued. "Dr. Isabel has finalized the design of the educational center. Registration for the first semester is now open, and demand is exceeding all expectations." At this moment, a nurse approached with a smile. "Mr. Montenegro, Aurora is ready to see Mommy's room." With great care, the little girl was transferred to the room where Helena was anxiously waiting. When mother and daughter finally met, the world seemed to stop for a moment. Aurora opened her small eyes, revealing the same deep brown shade as Helena's. "She has your eyes," Lucas whispered, emotionally. "And her stubborn chin," Helena joked, stroking her daughter's little face. "And look, she already has an incredible story to tell." Maria arrived shortly after, bringing a special gift, a handmade mobile made with small fabric orchids, each one representing an important moment in Lucas and Helena's story. "So she'll always remember where she came from," the governess explained, hanging the mobile over the crib, "and the transforming power of love." While Aurora slept peacefully in her crib, Lucas and Helena talked about the future, not just theirs as a family, but the entire legacy they were building. "Bella Vista has always been more than a resort," Helena reflected, looking at her daughter. "It was a dream of transformation, of creating something that could make a difference in people's lives. And now, with the educational center, with the new projects, it is now a reality that goes beyond any dream," Lucas added. "And Aurora will grow up watching this legacy expand, learning from an early age that true success lies in making a difference in the lives of others." Sophia, who had remained discreetly in the room, approached with more news. The university has just approved the full scholarship program for employees' children. What's more, they're going to use the Bella Vista model as a case study in their hotel management program. Helena smiled, remembering how it all began. A young teacher with a seemingly impossible dream of creating a resort unlike anything else before. "Do you know what that means?" she asked, looking at Lucas. "It means that our story is not just ours. It is an example that it is possible to reconcile business success with social responsibility, that love can be the basis of truly transformative management." Lucas took Helena's hand as they watched Aurora sleep peacefully. On the mobile above the crib, the small fabric orchids danced gently in the breeze that came through the window, like a silent promise that new dreams would continue to bloom. 6. Months had passed since Aurora was born. Bella Vista was flourishing not only in its gardens, but in each new project that came to fruition. The educational center had become a national reference in sustainable hotel training, and the orchids in the hanging garden had never been so vibrant. On that special morning, the resort was preparing for a significant event, the official inauguration of the Aurora Foundation, a project that united all of Bella Vista's social and educational initiatives under a single management. Helena, with Aurora in her arms, supervised the final preparations in the main auditorium. The little girl, now completely recovered from the initial complications, was the joy of the resort, charming staff and guests with her easy smile and curious gaze. "She has an observant way about her," Sophia commented, approaching with a stack of reports. "Always aware of everything that happens around her." Helena smiled, adjusting Aurora's little dress decorated with delicate embroidered orchids, a special gift from Maria. And her father's determination. Just yesterday, she tried to crawl into the garden when she heard the choir rehearsing. Lucas entered the auditorium, accompanied by Dr. Isabel and a group of journalists. The Aurora Foundation event had attracted national attention, not only because of its innovative nature, but because it represented a new way of doing business, one that placed human development at the center of everything. "All the rooms are taken," Lucas informed, gently kissing Aurora's forehead and Helena's lips. "And not just because of the event. Bella Vista has become a sought-after destination precisely because of its unique philosophy." Dr. Isabel nodded, her eyes shining with excitement. "The model you've created is revolutionizing the hospitality industry. We've already received partnership requests from resorts all over the world." Maria approached the group, carrying a newly assembled photo album. "I found these old photos of the resort," she explained, opening the album. "I thought it would be interesting to show the transformation during the event." The images told a powerful story, from Helena's first sketches for Bella Vista to the present day. There were photos of the hanging garden in its first bloom, the original opening, and later, the difficult times when Helena worked as a receptionist. And finally, the most recent images, the wedding, the birth of Aurora, the graduation of the first class of the educational center. "Each photo tells a part of our story," Helena reflected, emotionally. "But the most important thing is not the moments captured, but the lives transformed in the process." As if to illustrate his point, Paolo entered the auditorium accompanied by his youngest daughter, now one of the scholarship recipients of the educational program. The little girl ran up to Helena, proud to show off her first sustainable gardening project. "See, Aunt Helena? I managed to make the orchid bloom using the techniques you taught me." Lucas watched the scene with a full heart. In just a few months, Bella Vista had become much more than a luxury resort. It was a true center of social transformation, a place where dreams blossomed alongside the orchids in the hanging garden. Sophia called everyone's attention. "It's time." "The guests are arriving." The auditorium began to fill. Among those present was a face that took everyone by surprise, Vanessa. She had asked permission to participate in the event, no longer as the former antagonist, but as someone who had learned valuable lessons about love and redemption. Helena, after a moment of hesitation, approached her with Aurora in her arms. "I'm glad you came," she said sincerely. Vanessa, visibly moved, looked at little Aurora. "She's beautiful," she whispered, "and she has her mother's determined eyes." Then, her voice breaking, she added, "Forgive me, Helena, for everything." "Forgiveness," Helena replied softly, "is a fundamental part of any true transformation." Lucas watched from a distance, marveling at his wife's ability to turn even the most difficult moments into opportunities for growth. It was this spirit that had made Bella Vista so much more than just a resort. It was a place where second chances were possible, where love had the power to heal wounds and build bridges. The sun was rising over Bella Vista, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold that were reflected in the resort's windows. It was Aurora's first birthday, and the hanging garden had been specially decorated for the occasion. The orchids, more exuberant than ever, seemed to be celebrating along with the little birthday girl. Helena watched her daughter playing among the flowers, protected by Maria's watchful gaze. Aurora was already taking her first steps, staggering, but determined, just like her mother years ago when she began to build her dream. Lucas approached silently, hugging Helena from behind. "What are you thinking about?" "How life turns," she replied, leaning back against him. "A little over a year ago, I was waiting tables here, feeling like I'd lost everything. And now you've turned loss into gain, pain, and to learning, challenges into opportunities," Lucas added, kissing her shoulder. Bella Vista had become more than they had ever dreamed. The educational center now offered courses to more than 300 students, most of them scholarship students. The Sustainable Management Program was an international reference, and the Aurora Foundation was expanding its activities to other states. Sophia approached the couple, carrying her inseparable tablet. "The numbers for the last quarter are in. The social impact of the resort has exceeded all expectations." "It's not just numbers," Helena smiled, watching Aurora reach for a butterfly. "It's lives transformed, dreams realized, families positively impacted." The birthday party brought together not only family and friends, but the entire Bella Vista family. The employees, now partners in the venture, participated with the pride of those who helped build something truly special. The resort's choir, which had become an attraction in its own right, prepared a special performance. The song spoke about love, new beginnings, and the magic of believing in dreams. Aurora, upon hearing the first notes, clapped excitedly. Dr. Isabel, who had become a close friend, raised her glass in a toast. "To Bella Vista, which taught us that true luxury lies not in the amenities of a resort, but in the transformative power of love and human dignity." Lucas picked Aurora up and walked over to the microphone. It was time for his speech, but the words he had prepared didn't seem enough. Looking at his daughter, Helena, and everyone present, he spoke from the heart. "The name Aurora means dawn, and that's exactly what our little one brought to our lives, a new beginning. But she's not alone in this mission. Each one of you, each person who is part of the Bella Vista family, is also a new dawn. Each smile, each gesture of care, each dream fulfilled is a sun rising on the horizon." Helena joined them, her eyes shining with excitement. "And this is just the beginning," she added, "because when love is the foundation of everything we do, there are no limits to what we can achieve." Aurora, as if she understood the importance of the moment, reached out her arms to the orchids that decorated the place. A small pink petal floated to her hand, making her smile in delight. And so, under the blue sky of Bella Vista, among orchids and smiles, love and overcoming, the story of Lucas and Helena continued to blossom. Not as an ending, but as an eternal